Okay. Are we starting po? Okay. Hello, good day, everyone. Okay, we shall start now. Yeah, I am Albertine Dean, and I am from the Andres Bonifacio College School of Law in Dipolog City, and I'm going to present today the research paper that I wrote with my co-author, who's also another law student in the same college. Yes, Vanessa Mawili. And the first of all, before we start, no, we just wanted to thank the Asia Foundation for this opportunity because it has been such a very informative and insightful experience for us, especially that we're also just starting with the law clinic experience, and also to our very encouraging dean, Angela Barbaso, who was the one who encouraged us to submit our proposal. And before I go to my first slide, I just wanted to say, na this is actually a very introductory research and exploratory. So since, as you all know, recently lang din naman na-promulgate ang Rule 138A, a revised Rule 138A. So everything in our region is just starting. And so this is just an exploratory research again, and we're just going to be going through the activities in the region. Before I start though, I just wanted to conduct a small poll, and that's okay. Yeah. Because I'm just curious, if you would, if everyone is, familiar with Region 9. Yeah. And actually, I was my undergrad was here in Manila, and then I moved to the province for my uh, college degree, my law degree. And kaya yun, so I was very curious kasi um, if people here are familiar with Region 9. So that's why can you see the poll? Is it visible? Yes, okay. Yeah, just if you know anything about Region 9, that would be helpful. That would be helpful in in how I go through my presentation today. Oh, it seems that oh, okay. So far the scores are okay. Oh, okay. Now, yeah. So actually, one of the reasons why we pushed, my co-author and I, we pushed for this research is because we know that there is not much literature about our region in general. Although yesterday, we have Dean from ADZU, Ateneo de Zamboanga University, presenting their activities. But in general, there are other law schools that are not well written about or researched about or talked about. So that is why. But I am glad to see that a lot of the participants here are knowledgeable, at least of Region 9. So, okay, I'll move on to the first slide, please. Thank you for participating in the short poll. Okay. Oh, sorry, the slide prior to that. Yes, okay. So this is my table of contents. So firstly, I'll just talk about the uh, yun po ano, table of contents. There you go. Thank you. I'll talk about the introduction lang, brief background, research questions, and then significance of the study. And then I'll describe the data and methodology. And then I will go with the meat of the paper, the discussion and analysis. So as you can see here, it's divided into 3 points. The challenges in Zamboanga Peninsula or Region 9 in implementing revised Rule 138A, the common points of those who have established legal aid clinics in the Zamboanga Peninsula. And then, of course, as an added bonus, of course, the COVID-19 best practices, because we are still currently in a pandemic. And then I will end the presentation with a summary and conclusion. Next slide, please. Yes, okay. The introduction. Yes, po. So, yeah, I just place this here, but we all know this already, listening from the very insightful talks yesterday from the justices and our lab chairperson. So, on what lab is, experiential learning, and we all know that it was promulgated on June 25, 2019, very recent. And one of the salient features that was also mentioned in the Supreme Court website is that uh, through this revised rule, our certified law student practitioner may now engage in a limited practice of law. Although, yeah, I will discuss it later in the history. Okay, next slide, please. So, very brief history. As mentioned in yesterday by the speakers from U.S. Embassy, then uh, actually, clinical legal education is already widely used outside the country. Since the 1960s and 70s, it has been employed in Australia, Canada, Chile, England, India, South Africa, US, and Zimbabwe. And in the 1990s, countries in Eastern Europe, Latin America, Asia, Africa, and South Pacific had followed suit already in establishing their clinical legal education. So I am actually, for this push factor, the next 2 points, I actually got this from Grossman, 1974. It's a very um, old article, but surprisingly, uh, it's his points still stand true until today. So he said in 1974 that the push factors for clinical legal education are, firstly, the community service imperatives of the law schools to give back to the community, to serve the underrepresented, okay, and also because of state expectations. Second point, which is true for us today, wherein the Supreme Court itself has promulgated this rule now. Okay, and then the challenges in clinical legal education then is still true today. Resourcing challenges, rapid changes, such as in staffing, resourcing, school policies, and directions in the universities and legal profession. Next slide, please. Okay, so now in the context of the Philippines, we all know that in 1986, Rule 138A was promulgated. No? Um, Rule 138 is about the rules on the admission to the bar, and then Rule 138A was added as a four-section rule allowing law students who have finished junior subjects to appear in court. So this is the rule that supported other law schools, such as here the in Manila, to to have the to have clinical legal education, and then as we have, this is based on what we have read na rin din sa mga press releases. In 2017, uh, then Associate Justice Jasmundo was appointed as ano, no, as Associate Justice, and then he was designated as the chairperson for the technical working group on the revision of the revised Rule 138-A. And as I said, it was promulgated in June 25, 2019. And then the two salient points are allowing for certification for level 1 and 2 to practice a limited practice of law, I mean. And then the institutionalization of CLEP in law schools, okay? And then it was further strengthened when in July 23, 2019, Rule 138, Section 5 was amended to include CLEP as a prerequisite in bar examinations. And moving forward, next slide, please. Moving forward, the technical working group was already now converted to the oversight committee for the implementation of the revised student practice rule, and there has already been regional rollout and training workshop on this revised rule. Next slide, please. Yes, next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So the mandate of the revised Rule 138A, for the purposes of this paper, we identified them. We decided to discuss them separately. No, the requirement of certification for the law students to engage in limited practice of law, as I mentioned, divided it now into two levels, and Now even allowing second year students to apply for certification. So this is different from the previous, I don't know, Rule 138A. And then the revision institutionalized clinical legal education programs in all the law schools in the country. Next slide, please. We further dissected this for purposes of our discussion later. We dissected the, I don't know, Section 9 of revised rule, wherein there are three specific mandates to the law schools. First one is to develop and adopt a CLEP, which could be done in two ways: law clinics, the establishment of law clinics, and externship programs. And then the second mandate is to develop and establish at least one law clinic in its school. So it has been defined as an office or center that renders legal assistance and services as herein provided to eligible persons, groups, and or communities. And then thirdly, to endorse qualified law students for certification as law student practitioners. So these are the three mandates that we are looking that we looked into when we did the study. Next, please. Yes, I just added no, but I think everyone is already familiar with this. The differences between the level 1 and level 2 certifications and what the students can do. Next slide, please. So, okay, brief background, the region, ano, no, third, ano, saan yung Region 9. So, this is us. We are here in Western Mindanao, the one in red. And to look more closely, next slide, please. Looking more closely to the, ano, yeah, the map. So this is yeah, a bigger map of the region. So currently there are actually the region is composed of four provinces and five cities. And these were the law schools that were identified now. So there's one in Dipolog City, and that is us, our school, Andres Bonifacio College. There, if you can see the blue, the blue map, the northern part, and then right beside us is the Jose Rizal Memorial State University, established in 2008. I mean, they opened their law degree program in 2008. And then going a bit south, we have one in Sindangan. It's a municipality, the Philippine Advent College, and they started offering their law degree in 1999. And going further south, we have in Zamboanga City, we have two law schools, the Ateneo de Zamboanga University, which offered their law degree program in 2011, and WEMSU, or the Western Mindanao State University, which offered their law degree in 1982. And then moving a bit, I don't know, northern, northeast, we have Pagadian City, and they have two law schools there, the J.H. Ceriles College in which offered their law degree in starting 2005, and then the St. Columban College, which just started their law degree program in 2020. Okay, so this is the, I don't know, overview of the law schools in our region. Next slide, please. So our research questions. First, what are the challenges preventing law schools in Zampen from creating their LACs? Secondly, what are the common things among those who have established LACs in in the region rather? And then thirdly, the best practices in the context of COVID-19 in Zampen. Yes. So the significance of our study is first, we wanted, and I mentioned earlier, we wanted to add to the literature, um, specifically in Zampen. And then secondly, to serve as a benchmark for other law schools in Region 9 on the implementation of Rule 138A. Because during this study, actually there was much knowledge sharing as well between us and the interviewees. So that was good for us. And then thirdly, to inform the policymaking body of LEB, hopefully to inform their policymaking on how to implement further Rule 138A. And to promote knowledge sharing, specifically by helping the LACs in Zampen to diversify their services for the promotion of free legal assistance. Next, please. So now I'll describe the data and methodology. So yeah, I think mine has skipped. Oh yeah, there. Thank you. So this is no no earlier I showed the map, and this is in tabular form. All the law schools, the year they were founded. So we go as early as 1949 and as recently as 2020. And for our students, it varies really widely. There's a school which only has 40 students, and then there are schools that are as big as having 370 students. Um, and then, just to add, there's actually also three state-funded uh, colleges of law in the region, and while four of them are actually private schools. Okay, next, please. So, how did we collect our data? So basically, it's just an interview with the law student council governors. So this is we are getting the point of view of the LSPs and not the supervising lawyers. And the LSPs who are also the law student council governors or presidents in their law school. So yeah, the interviews were conducted from September to November 2022 this year, and then semi-structured questionnaires. And these are the reasons why we chose the governors, now the law student practitioners, because of their leadership in student-led activities in the law schools. And they have, among the law student practitioners, they're the one with close working relationship with their respective supervising lawyers in the conduct of all the student-led activities. And then thirdly, the governors are actually mostly in their junior or senior years, such that they have adequate knowledge and information pertaining to the implementation of Rule 138A in the respective law schools. Okay, so these are the reasons. And then before we go to the presentation or the discussion, we just wanted to let you know that the researchers recognized that admitting the delay in the establishment of legal aid clinics and the practice of CLEP in their law schools would be a difficult stance for the interviewees to take. It's difficult to say na we still do not have a legal aid clinic. That's not an easy thing to say, especially if it's already been mandated. As such, in order to ensure that the law student governors would be transparent or at least be more open, in discussing their difficulties or challenges, which have prevented them from opening their legal aid centers, we have kept the discussion and analysis at an aggregate level, avoiding the specific mention of the names of the law schools in the research. In the results, and we actually said this before we started our the individual interviews. We told them, and they were happy to know that we won't be like pinpointing their school for failing to do this or that. Okay, so and that is why they agreed. So that was one of the conditions set before the interview. So and then this is just a I don't know evidence of the interviews conducted. Next slide, please. So I think we're now going to the discussion and analysis. So next slide. So okay, now let's try to describe the data. So establishment of law clinics. In this category, we have three of the interviewees who said that they have established law clinics in their law schools. So the remaining schools are still in the planning stage, and one school stated that they plan to have a law clinic with a physical office in the following year. Next slide, please. Um, in terms of activities during the pandemic, two schools with law clinics remained active during the pandemic. So one of them was able to conduct capacity building seminars, promote their law clinic online, and accept clients via social media platforms, followed by a consultation depending on the merits of the case. And then the other law clinic continued, but it acknowledged difficulties in reaching out to its clients. Because of conditions brought on by the pandemic, which for the same reason prevented them from doing promotional activities of their clinic. Next slide, please. Uh, Also, two law clinics said that they were able to handle cases and report clients as of November 2022. And we just wanted to mention that even before the implementation of CLEP, one law school with a law clinic clinic had already been accepting cases by referral from other lawyers or courts. Their dean would assign the cases to faculty members along with the students who would assist the lawyers. So even before, sorry, not even before the implementation of PLEP, that is even before the promulgation of the revised rule 138, they already have been providing free assistance through this, I don't know, through this system. Next slide, please. In terms of specialization, uh, yeah, in terms of specialization, meaning did their law clinic focus on a specific field? We found that two of the three law schools with established clinics do not actually specialize on any field. And there is one law clinic which generally accepts all meritorious cases, but they have also identified environmental law as a specialized focus of their green clinic, which I think was mentioned by one of the presenters, the green clinic in partnership with the PEJC. So there's one law clinic in our region which has partnership as well with PEJC. Next, please. In terms of externship programs, one law school which currently has not established a law clinic do implement their CLEP through externship programs, wherein they send students to courts, NGOs, and government agencies to engage in legal work under the supervision of lawyers. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh, yeah, it gets like that when drying air. Next, please. So in terms of certifications, actually this is type of four. There are four law schools with levels one and two certified students. One has only level one certified students, and the other two are still applying for level one. Next slide, please. Now let's go to the challenges uh, for those with no LACs. So they identified five challenges. Sorry. Firstly, the pandemic, which has limited the face-to-face activities of the students. So especially na they also have problems with like access to reliable internet. So going online would also serve as a problem. So this was really a challenge for them in implementing in opening their LACs. And then second, the institutional adjustment needed in adapting the new curriculum or curricula rather. So as you all know, the curricula has been changing now, and I know it's all because to improve legal education in the Philippines. But there are law schools who have admittedly have challenges in adapting to this, and then they have to adjust to that, and in addition to that, establish a law clinic. So that was one of the problems they observed. And then third, lack of information received from outside the region to guide and assist them in the creation of their legal aid centers. So some of the interviewees, um, they only recently found out, and not really recently, but not as early as 2019, that they have to establish the law clinics. Fourthly, the prioritization of bar results. Uh, Chief Justice Hasmundo would say in his previous speeches then about the clinic, about Rule 138A, about this, that uh, the current legal education is focused on bar results. And still, some students that we interview noticed this from some of their professors, that they would rather, as they think that having a legal aid clinic might limit the study time of the students uh, in order to pass the bar. And then lastly, there was a newly built law school, and their pioneer batch have only recently qualified for level 1 certification. Sorry, one moment, please. Yes, next slide, please. Sorry for that. So now, even if they do not have yet their LACs, legal aid clinics, they have actually conducted activities which are in line as well with with revised rule 138A. So firstly, they have conducted visit to communities to offer legal aid assistance, such as in city or provincial jails. They've also assisted their IBP chapters in legal aid assistance activities. And in one law school, they have actually divided their students into two groups. One group was assigned within the campus, and in the other, they were assigned to specific offices to help, um, such as in the CHR office, courts, and other law offices. So, an externship program. Okay. And another law school had one subject named legal counseling, wherein their culminating activity was to conduct a jail visit and be individually assigned to a person deprived of liberty or a PDL and assist the clients and their families in order to follow up their cases. So they still have activities, even in the absence of their legal aid clinics. Okay. And then moving on to let's move to the next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, there are three law schools with law clinics, and these are the common things that they pointed out, no, in the interviews. Firstly, is the proactive role of their law school administrators and supervising lawyers as a factor in establishing their law clinics. Okay, and then secondly, uh, they have law students and two certifications. Lastly, they've been granted levels one, and then three law schools have relatively smoothly adopted the clinical legal education program, but for varying reasons, which I will discuss in the next slides. And as I said, although there are three LECs, one LEC has actually only recently, very recently, nasa lang nag-open. So I did not include, or we did not include them yet in this discussion. And just highlight the activities of the. So the other LAC with has a pre-existing already free legal services even prior to revised rule 138A. So how it goes is once a case reaches their dean and other faculty members, the dean would normally assign a group of law students from varying year levels to assist the supervising lawyer in handling the case. And when we asked them how they found out about the cases, they said that the clients reached them by word of mouth, mostly referred by lawyers and judges, even though not faculty members. And very recently, they opened a hotline for communicating with the clients. And then now they have also conducted activities with their partner organizations mentioned yesterday in the I don't know in the speeches, the HLAF, which is an NGO based in Manila, focused on jail decongestion, and the Asia Foundation as well. Next slide, please. So the other law clinic was actually established through partnership and guidance from external organizations and the lab. Next slide, please. Oh, no, not this one. The one prior to that. Yung B, letter B, partnership and guidance. There you go. So their dean and faculty members have proactively encouraged the students in participating in training for CLEP and in building partnerships with external organizations for funding and technical expertise. So they mentioned that their students were invited into a month-long program by LEB and PALS in the conduct of Revised Rule 138A. And then they have also different partners. They have partnership with PJC for their Green Clinic, the Asia Foundation for capacity building seminars, Unido for their e-waste advocacy, and then a local NGO focused on promoting LGBT rights and human rights. Uh, and they established a gender-based hotline based on this partnership. So next slide, please. So very different ang how they started with their law clinics. So now moving on to the COVID-19 practices. Can we have the next slide, please? Oh, not this one. The technology. So in COVID-19 practices, actually among those we interviewed, there was only one law school which used technology in different activities for their law clinic. And these are the activities that they conducted online, virtually. So first, they took their certification oath digitally since they had their certification at the peak really of the pandemic. And then they participated in a number of capacity building seminars. And then they also have conducted an online program to promote their services. And then they try to make it catchy by discussing timely issues, such as the legal side of trending issues and of landmark cases involving public figures. And then this one, they also conducted a lot of consultation with inquiries and potential clients via Google Meet, FB Messenger, and Zoom. So they used different platforms really, whichever was more convenient to the prospective client. So through the FB page, clients could just chat them for either for inquiry or for setting an appointment. Okay, so these were the activities, but this was only just done, or we just observed this in one law school that we interviewed. Next slide, please. So this is a very simple study. Now, now going to the summary and conclusion of the things that we observed now based on the interviews. Firstly, next slide, please. So the four law schools who have yet to establish law clinics have complied with the other provisions of Revised Rule 138A pertaining to different legal aid activities. So one, they've done externship programs. They've also done short legal assistance programs, and then they have incorporated CLEP in their subjects. Uh, the second point is on the next slide. Uh, Among those who have established LACs, these were the common, among those who have not established LACs, these are the common challenges identified. The limited face-to-face activities brought about by the pandemic, the institutional adjustment needed in adopting the new curriculum, lack of information, and then the stringent focus on or prioritization of bar results, as if uh, they would make a trade-off if they focus on establishing club. And then the last point is there are also law schools whose pioneer batches have only very recently qualified for level 1 certification. Okay, next slide, please. So for those who have established LACs, the three law schools, well, the one of them was just only very recently opened. So among the two na lang with a relatively longer history in their clinic, these are the common points. First, the proactive role of the law school administrators and supervising lawyers. Second, that they have both level 1 and level 2 certified LSPs. And thirdly, active partnership. They really worked with external organizations, not only for funding, but I think more importantly for a source of I don't know expertise. Okay, and then lastly, while there is one law clinic which utilizes technology for various activities, much can still be done to encourage other law clinics to use the same in the pursuit of wider access to the public of free legal assistance. So that concludes, next slide, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention. And I think we have time, a bit of time for maybe comments or suggestions or yeah, anything. And sorry for the, I don't know, I kept on coffee. I think it's too cold here. But yeah, let me know. So I think if there is none, we can close this breakout room. Again, thank you everyone for your time and for the attention. And if you have even after this, pag meron kayong suggestions or comments or clarifications or ideas, you can always chat, message me directly through the Airmeet app or website. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Good good morning everyone or good afternoon. We have reached the end of this session. Before we conclude or close this session, please allow us to play a few videos of the PCLE Summit. Thank you. I hope you can stay here in the room and watch the videos that we will be playing. Thank you.
I think with the revised rule, one of the things that it did was that it institutionalized the reality that there is so much inequality. There are marginalized and vulnerable sectors, and we have to do something about it. Before, we only hear about it. Some are more aware than others, but since now we have the revised rule, and in the revised rule, again, there's that preferential treatment for the marginalized and vulnerable sectors, then it becomes a mandate.
We should consider CLEP as a way of getting students to be practice ready. This means they are exposed to the handling of actual cases and matters, dealing not only with clients but also with the courts, administrative agencies, institutions. CLEP teaches our law students what it means to be a lawyer in the real world, rather than being limited to cold and clammy books and cases, and then they get surprised when they actually interact with the people when they are already in the law office.
Your law school clinic administrators and supervising lawyers are asked to reflect also on what they have been doing already in terms of the exercise of their profession. Like, have they been doing what we were really asked to do in the first place? That is really public service. Law, really, the legal profession is public service. But sometimes, or maybe all of the time, when we go into practice already, we forget about that. Our lives are already occupied by more of the interest of our clients and the interest of your interest as a lawyer. You forgot that first and foremost, the legal profession is for public service. We are public servants.
I think the revised rule will help develop lawyers who have heart for those who are in need. We also help an elderly woman who would have been deprived of her property if not for the support of ILAW and the student volunteers. So the importance, I think, is because we immerse ourselves with the legal issues, work with the marginalized and those who need legal assistance. Through the rule, we will be able to form lawyers who will have an understanding not only of the law as it is written, but how it impacts the lives, how the law impacts the lives of the people that we will serve in the future. So I think working under the rule as students, we are able to understand not only the legal problems, but also some of the structures of injustice that are facing our country.
With CLEP, the law students are given the opportunity, because they're out in the field, to really rethink, what do I want to be when I become a lawyer? What kind of service do I want to? Do I want to go to litigation? Do I want to go to policy making? You know, in the past, before clinical legal education was really introduced through Rule 1388, law clinics were really mostly litigation clinics. We forgot that lawyers are not just litigators. Lawyers are engineers. They build institutions. Lawyers are policymakers. And this one, CLEP is bringing to the table. Telling the student, what do you want to be? Do you want to go into litigation, policy making, or do you want to go into building institutions?
The first is always a preferential treatment for the poor. We have to realize that we live in a world that there is so much inequality. When we see that people are equal, the reality is, in law and in essence, we want that kind of equality. But factually, there's so much inequality. And access to justice, for example, might sound very good, very well. Everyone can access justice. But because of inequality, it is not true for many people to attain justice. So having that frame of mind of preferential treatment for the poor gives that insight that we must do something to give them, to allow them to attain the equality in law that we want.
Empathy. You know, you must have that in order for you to serve well. Even if in whatever profession you need empathy, service only comes, you only deliver excellent service if you are able to experience what your clients are experiencing, and you are able to give the appropriate service if you have that empathy. The clinical legal education program is the one that provides the opportunity for one to be empathetic, to really care. Yeah, empathy is really care, to really care for your client.
You have to keep your integrity intact, because you may not win initially, but it's a process. It's a process of change. Sooner or later, you will succeed. But what is the worth of that success if you give up your integrity?
One must be ethical, or else the services that you give might be, of course, for the client the best, but if it is not ethical, it wouldn't really serve the public, and that would only be for a short run. No, if your service is just to help your client without looking at the repercussions of that help to the community.
You have to be an advocate of your case. The law is the basis, but you also have the factual circumstances. But these are tools. So if you are an advocate, you have to be creative. You have to stand by and stand for your clients. No, you can't just tell them, talo na tayo. No? You have to fight for them. You have to believe in that case. And that's what being an advocate is. No? You don't just give up. You really fight for them, and you give it all.
A law student practitioner has to have that attention to detail because we have to deal with the nitty-gritty of the law, and how do we use that nitty-gritty of the law to protect the rights of our clients.
Of course, professionalism. Yeah, we just don't have to have the empathy or be ethical. We must know our work well. We must be excellent in what we do. We must be on time. We study. We know to research, and that's professionalism.
With CLEP, we are training our law student practitioners to be practice ready so as them not to be shocked when it comes to actually filing pleadings or actually filing cases in court. They won't be shocked anymore when it comes to really dealing with anything that is connected to the legal profession.
And I'm looking forward for a day to learn how to work with, argue with, and be with our lawyer friends in the courtroom and pursue, because I think it's important. It's not only that because you'll experience it as you will do it later when you become a lawyer, but more importantly is you can journey more with the clients that we serve. Not only in the interviews and writing the affidavits, but also really championing their cause in a way. So I think it's exciting, and also hopefully if there are more and more student practitioners who are doing it for the clients, then we will bring access to more of the Filipinos in need of support of legal aid in a way.
With me having 5 months of being a law student practitioner, it taught me to be more service-oriented. It taught me how to go beyond what is written in the law. I was taught, and maybe my other co-law student practitioners, where we were taught to be more service-oriented. We have to be compassionate with every client that we encounter, and we are to make sure that with our legal knowledge, we are able to help those who have less in life.
Rule 138A is really allowing the law schools to walk the talk. All law schools, I think, in the country would say that they want to offer transformative and relevant legal education. But what is really a transformative and what is really responsive legal education? Look at your law students, and they are really adult learners. And as adult learners, they will be asking for relevant pedagogy. They want to know the relevance of what they are learning. They want to see the real application of what they are learning. They want to see the meaning of what they are learning in the law schools. So CLEP allows us to do that. Experiential learning is really the way to go. And so it is allowing us to be responsive, be transformative as we have declared ourselves to have and to offer.
CLEP brought home the need to enhance the way we teach, because we have been really teaching it like we use Socratic most of the time, lecture method. We forgot how important experiential learning is, and that was what CLEP contributed to the pedagogy in law school, to remind all of us that experiential learning has a very, very important place in teaching the law. And it reminded us also that our students can serve while learning. They don't have to wait to graduate from law school. That while they're studying their lesson, they can serve. And when they serve, their learnings, their knowledge are deepened. In fact, that's the point of experiential learning. No? You deepen your knowledge of a subject matter by really actually applying the principles you've learned, implementing the policies that were shared to you in the classroom.
I'm hoping that with the new rules on externship as well as clinical education, that the pedagogy will really be transformed by veering away from a very purely doctrinal approach to a more experiential approach. And the two of them don't need to be inconsistent. They don't need to be antagonistic to each other, because they can complement each other. Doctrinal professors can actually take on a clinical approach in teaching. And the best example I can give to that is procedure subjects. Many students fear or dread procedure subjects because they're boring. You memorize rules, you do checklists, but you don't see how they're applied. But if a doctrinal professor in civil procedure, for example, allows students to observe clinically and even experience clinically what it means to draft a motion to dismiss, what it means to go to court, what it means to observe a cross-examination or a direct examination, or to come up with a judicial affidavit while taking up civil procedure, then I think it guarantees that the learning will not only be significant, but the learning would be permanent. I think the student would learn not just the theory, but the student would also learn the application.
This is a big contribution to their legal studies. CLEP helps integrate the various laws and concepts that they learn throughout law school. It helps them understand how law actually works. And, according to this theory of learning, the best way to learn is by doing. And so the law student practitioner experiences how the law works. Hindi lang niya binabasa, he just doesn't read about it, but he experiences it. And they will remember it better.
I think the first thing that a CLEP administrator or clinic administrator should realize is that clinical education is very different from the traditional form of education that we're used to in law school, which some people would call the pedagogical or the doctrinal approach, wherein you teach students what case law is, what the statutes are, because clinical education is experiential education. It is learning by doing, it is learning by observing, it is learning by witnessing. And so a clinical administrator is someone who is able to explain in practical terms, by words, by actions, is someone who is also a mentor, is someone who is a companion, is someone who can break down complex theories and show them to a group of interns. It is also someone who will allow himself or herself to stand aside and let interns experience how it is to handle a case, draft a substantive position paper, come up with substantive research, and so those are not things that we are used to in law school, in traditional legal education. So a clinic administrator, I think, must consider all of those.
I acknowledge that putting in CLEP into our law schools with varying resources can really be very challenging at times. We would find ourselves needing, for instance, a lot of supervising lawyers, find ourselves needing a lot of resources. But in the midst of these challenges, if we only will keep in mind the reason why we need to do CLEP, which is that learning the law while serving the community, we will not lose our way. So that is what I want us to keep in mind always.
They are there to guide their students, become the lawyers that their student, no, become the lawyer that their student would want to be. Meaning they should take away already being the expert, that I'm the expert so you follow me, but they are there to guide, to bring out the best in the law student. You know, I've been interviewing students for admission to the law school, and although some would enter law school because, of course, for professional advancement, but even then, even if that was their primary reason, they will always say that they want to serve. So in all those students who go to law school, there is that spirit of service. They want to make the community better. And so the role of the law clinic administrator or supervising lawyer is to really nurture that desire, that love, that passion to serve. And you cannot do that by being the sage on the stage, because you might just be teaching your own way of doing things, and it wouldn't really help. In the words of Dean Joanne, let's allow 1,000 flowers to bloom. And for 1,000 multicolored flowers to bloom, we allow the uniqueness of our law students to come out, that unique service that they can give to the community. And that can only be done if you are a guide on the side.